This is CBN NewsWatch.
And thank you so much for joining us. I'm Ephraim Graham. Students at Wheaton College say an African-American pro-life activist made them feel, quote, unsafe and unheard as he addressed racial justice and abortion during a campus forum. It's a story our Mark Martin is following for us at this hour. He joins us now in the CBN newsroom with more on what he's found. Mark?
Ephraim, Ryan Baumberger was invited by the student group Wheaton College Republicans to speak at a campus event called Black Lives Matter in and out of the womb. During the 15-minute presentation, Baumberger spoke about the impact that abortions are having on the black community.
Planned Parenthood was birthed in eugenic racism, but they never severed that timeline. They never severed that connection. How do you sever from your past if every year you give out the Margaret Sanger Award? You don't give out awards to people that you don't hold in high regard.
Afterwards, there was a 30-minute question and answer session where students had the opportunity to ask questions. Baumberger also stayed late to answer additional questions. 6 days after the forum, Baumberger was criticized in an open letter by Student Body President Lauren Rowley, Vice President Tyler Whaler, and Executive Vice President of Community Diversity Sammy Shields. The letter was sent out to the university denouncing Baumberger's visit, saying the speaker made several comments at the event that deeply troubled members of our community. His comments surrounding the topic of race made many students, staff, and faculty of color feel unheard, underrepresented, and unsafe on our campus. The students said they wrote the letter to respond to the, quote, offensive rhetoric. Baumberger responded to the students, writing that they failed to mention the special interest group that invited him and his racial background. He wrote, I am a person of color, a clarifying fact which you conveniently left out of your letter of denouncement. I was primarily presenting a perspective of those who are never heard, always underrepresented, and are actually unsafe, the unborn. CBN News has reached out to Wheaton College. According to their media relations department, the 3 students are choosing not to comment at this time. Ephraim, back to you.
Mark, thank you. Ryan Baumberger joins us now. So, Ryan, what comments do you think these students may have taken issue with?
I think the main issue was they didn't like that I was criticizing the Black Lives Matter movement. So how dare I, as someone with brown skin, if you noticed at all, how dare I actually take a different position with that social movement? And I point out very specifically what I had issues with. One, that they announced solidarity with the abortion industry, that their policy platform is based on the negation of fathers, that they promote a radical LGBTQ ideology. So there are a number of things that I pointed out, but that really was the issue, I believe, that they think was offensive.
Now, have you seen this open letter to the university by student leaders? And if so, how do you respond?
Oh, I did. Yes, I received it. And it was actually really disheartening because the whole presentation was fact-based. It was grace-based. It was biblically sound. And to read an attack like that, to say that what I said was offensive rhetoric. I mean, to say that we're one human race, is that offensive rhetoric? To say that we should actually get to know people beyond the pigmentation, know who they are, talk to them, form relationships with people who look different than you. I don't know exactly what they were suggesting was offensive rhetoric. But to then say that students felt, not just students, student staff and faculty felt unsafe, I mean, come on. This is the culture in which we're creating individuals who just don't want to be offended or don't want their opinion to be challenged. And that's really tragic, especially on a Christian college campus.
Now, school leaders say they've reached out to you to have a meeting with you. Has this taken place?
Let's correct that. We reached out to them several times. There was 15 days that went by and they didn't respond to any of our emails. We reached out to them because, as we put in our emails, we wanted to reach a godly solution to this issue. So no, they did not reach out to us. Then we had a phone call scheduled for Monday night and asked that one of our board members join in the call, and they resisted that. There were several emails back and forth, and they kept questioning why this unexpected change. And then we asked, what was your reservation of having one of our board members join this off the record private call? And their next email was, we declined this unexpected change, and they never called in. So we have made attempt after attempt to speak to them, to bring about a godly resolution, to allow truth to prevail, And unfortunately, they are the ones who have refused the communication, who have refused a Matthew 18 sort of model of conflict resolution.
At this point, what are you hoping will come out of this?
Truth. I also hope that students realize that they can be courageous right there on campus, even if it seems like the culture is against you. Love is illuminating the truth. It's always illuminating the truth. And so our prayer as an organization, the Radiance Foundation, is that students feel equipped and empowered to engage in these really tough culture-shifting issues, and they are not willing to back down because of a culture of political correctness or even a worship, what I think is this worship of the deity of diversity. If truth has to be sacrificed for you to spread this false diversity, then it's false diversity and it's false unity. So there are a lot of things we want out of it, but we really want truth to prevail overall.
All right, Ryan Baumberger, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
The United Nations Secretary General is urging world leaders to take the threat of climate change seriously. It comes at a United Nations climate summit in Poland. Antonio Guterres says bold action is needed to prevent a catastrophic rise in temperatures before the end of the century. But some anti-government protesters in France are not buying it. They launched massive protests and riots in Paris to thwart government plans to implement a heavy carbon tax on gasoline. That caused French President Emmanuel Macron to temporarily cancel the tax increase. But Guterres said notions are not moving fast enough to prevent an irreversible catastrophe.
If we fail, the Arctic and the Antarctic will continue to melt. Corals will bleach and then die. The oceans will rise. More people will die from air pollution. Water scarcity will plague a significant proportion of humanity, and the cost of disasters will skyrocket.
Adding to the conversation, President Donald Trump tweeted this week, "I am glad that my friend Emmanuel Macron and the protesters in Paris have agreed with the conclusion I reached 2 years ago. The Paris Agreement is fatally flawed because it raises the price of energy for responsible countries while whitewashing some of the worst polluters." CBN's Drew Parkhill spoke with Steve Moore about how seriously these reports should be taken. Moore is the co-author of Trumponomics, a new book about the president's economic plan.
You've also paid attention to these warnings about climate change, which have come for many years, along with other warnings. What was your take on the government's report that came out recently?
Well, there's a doom and gloom lobby in America today and around the world, and I estimate that the climate change industrial complex, and that's what we have today, is tens and tens of billions of dollars to spread this doom and gloom. We've created whole industries of climate scientists to come up with these models that predict the world is coming to an end. Now, the problem with this is that all of the predictions that these same doom and gloom people have made over the years have been wrong. I mean, I don't know if you're old enough to remember, remember the population bomb of the 1960s that we were, going to be standing elbow to elbow with each other. And then there was the limits to growth. Right. And then there was, we're going to run out of food and everybody's going to starve to death. And then, of course, there was do you remember the second ice age is coming? That's what they used to say. Now they say it's warming, but then they said it was cooling.
In the late 70s.
Yes, and of course, and then there was the peak oil that we were going to run out of oil. Now, does anybody today believe we have peak oil? So, look, that doesn't mean that they're wrong. Here's my point as an economist, because I'm not a climatologist, I'm an economist. They say if we don't take this action, that the world economy, 100 years ago is 10% smaller. If you destroy our energy capacity, and that's what this is all about, when the UN and these climate reports say we have to take action, what they're saying is don't use energy, don't use oil, don't use gas, don't use coal, don't use nuclear energy. Well, that will completely collapse our economy.
Right. Okay, now, why are these predictions wrong? Is it because people just come up with better ideas that the doomsayers don't see coming?
Well, this is the other point, is every action that they see needs to be taken is an action by government. It's actually a big, huge government power grab here. They're going to tell you what kind of toilet you have, what kind of light bulbs you use, what kind of energy you use, how much energy you can use, what you set your thermostat at. This is an incredibly invasive idea that takes away people's personal liberty. my feeling is, look, let's assume that there are problems with the future of the climate. By the way, the climate's been changing for hundreds of thousands of years. This isn't going to be combated by government action. I mean, does anybody really think the United Nations can change the world temperature? It will be combated by Americans who are ingenious, who will come up with new technologies, new innovations to deal with this crisis. It's not going to come from government.
Now, President Trump, you were an advisor on, and you still work with him in the White House, but during his campaign, you were one of the economic advisors. President Trump has taken a lot of heat for pulling out of this Paris Accord on climate change. Was that the right move?
This was the worst treaty ever. I mean, it was totally anti-America. It was basically saying we're going to have to pay hundreds of billions of dollars to the rest of the world. Why?
Right.
Why would we? And second of all, I mean, it's going to basically shut down American energy. We pay all the costs. And thirdly, none of these other countries are taking it seriously. Already, this Paris Climate Accord has been in action for a year. None of the other countries are coming anywhere close to meeting their targets. Not China, not India, not Europe, not Australia, none of these countries. So the one country, by the way, that's reduced its carbon emissions the most is the United States of America. We're not even in the treaty. Isn't that ironic?
Yeah, it's just amazing. Folks, Steve Moore is co-author of the book Trumponomics. He talks about things you won't hear from the major media, what President Trump was really like, as well as a lot of other subjects. It's a very good read. Steve, thanks for being with us.
Thank you.
Forecasters are predicting what could be a coast-to-coast winter weather event, bringing extremely cold temperatures, snow, and ice. Meteorologists say the storm system, which will move all the way from the southwest to the mid-Atlantic, could affect millions of people, bringing power outages and making life miserable from one side of the nation to the other, with at least a dozen states getting snow and another 20 getting very cold rain. The chief forecaster for Weather Bell Analytics, Joe Bastardi, joins us now for a closer look at the forecast. So, Joe, this storm seems to have something for everyone. Rain, snow, sleet. Who's going to get what?
Well, first of all, I heard the conversation before, just real quick. There's a book I have out called The Climate Chronicles, and this is all about what H.L. Mencken said. The urge to save humanity is almost always a false face for the urge to rule it. Now, let me get to the weather over here, because I love Stephen Moore's. I've read a lot of the stuff he's done and really love it. So it was really interesting listening. It's a major storm. Listen, we had a similar situation in 2002. Now, I've been on several times, even in hurricane season, saying, look out, this winter's got a lot going for it. It's gotten started early. This is going to be a historic storm in the Carolinas, the western part of North Carolina into southwest Virginia. Now, through Oklahoma, the Texas Panhandle, northern Arkansas, there's going to be some snow and ice. There's going to be heavy to excessive rainfall in East Texas. But the rain, of course, washes off. And as far as the Texas Panhandle goes, it'll melt off in a day or two. But 1 to 2 feet of snow in Winston-Salem, I think you're going to get that there. 6 to 12 inches in Greensboro, 4 to 8 inches in Raleigh. That's going to stick around tomorrow. The people that are really going to benefit from this will be the ski areas of North Carolina into southwest Virginia. 2 feet of snow in there, and that's going to stick around for a while, too. So this is a major storm. By the way, Virginia Beach, I think it's mostly rain, though there may be a few inches of snow up toward Richmond. Looks like it might go south of D.C., though.
So what part of the country is the worst? North Carolina?
North Carolina, listen, you know, they're always making jokes about everybody's running out to Winn-Dixie or Food Line or whatever. This time it's for real. This is going to be a monster storm in western North Carolina up into southwest Virginia. And it will still be a formidable storm all the way to the I-95 corridor. But it wouldn't surprise me if there's some single storm records broken around Winston-Salem, Hickory, and those places there. Maybe even down into the Charlotte area. They should get a lot of snow and ice in there, too.
All right, we'll be watching.
Asheville looks like ground zero. That's the place to be, right at the Biltmore in Asheville.
Asheville, North Carolina. All right, Joe Bastardi, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Texas said goodbye today to former President George Herbert Walker Bush, who died last week at the age of 94. Today's farewell concludes 3 days of ceremonies in Washington and gave way to a more personal funeral service. More than 1,000 people attended the service at St. Martin's Episcopal Church in Houston. Bush's grandson, George P. Bush, and his close friend, former Secretary of State James Baker, both delivered touching eulogies. Baker celebrated Bush as president with, quote, the courage of a warrior, but the greater courage of a peacemaker.
On behalf of his friends here today, across America and throughout the world, We rejoice, Mr. President, that you are safely tucked in now and through the ages with God's loving arms around you. Because our glory, George, was to have had you as our president and as such a friend.
The former president is being laid to rest at the Presidential Library in College Station, Texas, where former First Lady Barbara Bush and their late daughter, Robin, are buried. One person has died after 2 U.S. warplanes crashed off the coast of Japan. The U.S. Marine Corps said a refueling plane and a fighter jet crashed into each other about 2 a.m., landing in the Pacific Ocean. The 2 aircraft were carrying 7 crew members in total. Rescuers found 2 crew members and took them to the hospital. One of them is in stable condition, but the second has died. Right now, they are still searching for the remaining 5 people. The cause of the crash is under investigation. Coming up, an unusual Christmas display is raising eyebrows in Illinois. We're going to tell you what that's all about coming up next.
God Almighty is a God of blessing. He always wants to bless his people. But how do you get that blessing? And what principles will unlock that secret?
In Miraculous Blessings, Pat Robertson shows you how to open the floodgates of God's awesome blessings in your life.
In order to have a blessing, you've got to be blessable.
Discover what the Bible has to say about God's covenant of blessing, the laws of blessing, and what are the hindrances to the blessings of God.
The words of Jesus, they are as valid as the law of gravity, and if we follow those laws, we will be blessed.
You'll see amazing true stories of everyday people whose lives were rescued and transformed by God's miraculous blessings.
But even the doctors acknowledged that this had to be a miracle.
Call 1-800-700-7000 or visit CBN.com to become a CBN partner and get miraculous blessings today.
Hello, I'm Terry Newsom. Did you know there are more than 148 million orphans in the world today? 148 million. But it was 3 little girls that taught me about the plight of orphans. My husband and I spent nearly a month immersed in the daily activities of a Ukrainian orphanage as we waited to adopt 3 sisters. I saw firsthand the utter loneliness, the pain of rejection, and the overwhelming desire to be loved. That experience changed me forever. And out of it grew a ministry from my heart called Orphans Promise. Today, we're helping orphans and vulnerable children in more than 50 countries worldwide. Thousands of children are now in safe homes. They're being educated, and they're learning life skills. I'm asking you to join with me and become family to these children. Will you call the number on your screen right now? Because every child deserves a chance to be happy.
The Illinois Capitol Rotunda has a brand new Christmas display this year. Alongside the nativity scene and Hanukkah menorah stands an arm holding an apple with a snake coiled around it. The unusual sculpture is called Snaketivity. It is donated by the Satanic Temple. The piece also has a sign that says, "Knowledge is the greatest gift." Lex Manicor, a leader and spokesman for the group, told the State Journal-Register the arm represents Eve in the Garden of Eden, where Adam and Eve disobeyed God by eating from the tree of knowledge of good and evil. He says the group sees Satan as a hero in that story for spreading knowledge. He added the group does not worship Satan or believe he exists, but sees the fallen angel as a metaphor for rebellion in the face of religious tyranny. A transgender contestant is being poised to win the Miss Universe competition over the rest of the biologically female contestants. Angela Ponce won her qualifying round in Spain and will represent her country at the upcoming 2018 Miss Universe pageant in Bangkok, Thailand. Ponce was born a male but underwent gender reassignment surgery. The Blast reports online bookies are slating Ponce as a fan favorite. The pageant began allowing transgender women to compete in 2012 after a Canadian transgender model filed a lawsuit. Can America still have a great future? That's the subject we're taking a look at on tonight's Global Lane program on the CBN News Channel.
I'm Gary Lane. Are America's best days ahead, or are we headed for disaster? Wall Builders President David Barton says it depends on the choices we make in education and morality. Barton says right now, 3/4 of American young people no longer believe in moral absolutes.
When there is no right and wrong, then you're polarized. The thing we had at the Great Depression was you didn't have crime outbreaks, even though there was depression and poverty, because everybody still believed the Ten Commandments, and you believed the Golden Rule, and you believed the Good Samaritan. We don't have that moral foundation today.
And it was full speed ahead for the American economy this year. We'll talk to Stephen Moore for his prediction on what you and your family can expect in 2019. Watch these segments and more on this week's episode of The Global Lane, tonight at 9:30 p.m. Eastern on the CBN News Channel.
That is 9:30 Eastern on the CBN News Channel. You can watch that tonight. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Please stay with us.
Parents, the Superbook Bible app is a great way to get your child reading the Bible, because in today's busy world, we can use some help. The free Superbook Bible app has fun stuff your kids will love. They'll have a blast learning the Bible, playing great games, watching cool videos, discovering heroes in the Bible. They'll have fun while they learn God's Word. The Superbook Kids Bible app, available now.
Life. It's meant to be lived fully. Jesus said it. I came to give you life. Life to the fullest. Life in your family. Life in your finances. Life in your body, mind, and spirit. Life in your everyday. At CBN.com, we're taking what Jesus said seriously. We're here to help you discover life. Life. Live it fully. CBN.com.
We had 4 jobs that didn't go right. But, we didn't waver in our faith.
That's when God put on my heart that we needed to do the well.
Within a couple of days, we got an insurance refund check that we had no idea was coming.
And here we are, this year, it's just boom.
You go out and help other people, and you get rewarded for it.
Get Pat Robertson's latest teaching, Miraculous Blessings.
The candidates running for office in 2020 are getting ready now. CBN's Heather Sells spoke with Matt Badsell, the National Executive Director of American Majority, which trains grassroots conservative candidates all across the country.
We've had a situation here with the confirmation hearing for Justice Brett Kavanaugh that I think took maybe a lot of people back, thinking about going back to someone's high school days. And so what are you hearing from people who are running for political office or thinking about it?
There's several candidates or potential candidates that I've talked to already that are not probably going to run or are less likely to run because of the scrutiny that they feel that they'll be under, not just for themselves, but for their family, right? I mean, this has had an effect on the Kavanaugh family, having a young family especially. I think mothers and fathers that are thinking about running for office, they're putting their family through kind of the ringer and allegations for how they acted in high school and who they were friends with in high school.
What do you tell people are the deal breakers? Like what now is just absolutely don't even think about running for office if this isn't your background? I mean, obviously I assume a felony or something, but is there anything else now that's like a deal breaker that maybe wasn't in the past?
People want authenticity in candidates. They want people that are real, that are like them. And so some people can overcome something that happened in the past. I think especially if they can point to a life-changing experience that has changed them and changed their worldview, maybe changed their approach, maybe they became a Christian, something like that helped to change what happened. But as long as part of it is they needed to catalog all these things. And candidates are reluctant to do this to begin with, but they always should talk to their campaign staff. This is what I wrote in college. This is what my views used to be. I've now changed. But let's say in a Republican primary, if you had a formerly liberal view, that'll be used against you in a primary. People will say you're not pure enough, or you're not a Republican enough, or conservative enough, even if it's a position you might have had when you were young and really hadn't thought much about some of these issues back in college.
Let me ask you, what are you expecting for the political climate in the next 2 years? What should we all be gearing up for here?
Yeah, well, there's a lot to be gearing up for. I mean, 2020 is going to be an epic battle for the presidency, obviously, and I think that's going to have a ripple effect. Who controls the Senate? Who controls the House? And so we're going to have investigations that are going to, I think, have an overall investigations from the House, from Democrats trying to get at Trump, and gridlock in obviously Washington as they try to get things slowed down and stop Trump's agenda. I think the economy is going to continue to do well, and that'll be a helpful issue to run on, potentially for conservatives that would step forward to run. But I think it's going to be just, you got to be ready for a battle, a fierce battle to win, especially congressional races, Senate races, the presidency certainly, and those battleground states like Wisconsin or like, you know, Ohio or Florida. They're really going to have a lot of presidential potential visits and things like that. Obviously, Iowa, New Hampshire for the Democrats on the Democrat side. But the environment is certainly shaping up to be, you know, an epic clash. The left is so irritated by President Donald Trump. We've probably not seen the media and the left react this way to a Republican presidency ever. And so they are going to be doing unprecedented things, I think, to try to stop Trump from getting reelected, and that will have a ripple effect to congressional races as well.
Well, it's sobering. Matt Batesel with American Majority. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Well, after the break, we're going to find out which verse in the Bible was the most read online this year. Stay with us.
When you give, smiles grow bigger. When you care, homes are happier. When you comfort, the hurt goes away. When we all come together to love, miracles happen.
Hello, I'm Terry Newsom. Did you know there are more than 148 million orphans in the world today? 148 million. But it was 3 little girls that taught me about the plight of orphans. My husband and I spent nearly a month immersed in the daily activities of a Ukrainian orphanage as we waited to adopt 3 sisters. I saw firsthand the utter loneliness, the pain of rejection, and the overwhelming desire to be loved. That experience changed me forever. And out of it grew a ministry from my heart called Orphans Promise. Today, we're helping orphans and vulnerable children in more than 50 countries worldwide. Thousands of children are now in safe homes. They're being educated, and they're learning life skills. I'm asking you to join with me and become family to these children. Will you call the number on your screen right now? Because every child deserves a chance to be happy.
Hello? Is this thing on? Hey, kids, do you love games? And do you love discovering things? Well, do ya?
Then you're gonna love this. It's the new free Superbook Kids Bible app. You can play games, watch videos, find answers to your questions, and a whole lot more. The new Superbook Kids Bible app. Free downloads available on iTunes and Google Play now.
The YouVersion Bible app has announced the most popular verse of 2018, and it comes from the book of Isaiah from chapter 41, verse 10, which reads, "So do not fear, for I am with you. Do not be dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you and help you. I will uphold you with my righteous right hand." Now, the app also says that the new user segment has grown by some 27%. Thanks for watching. We'll see you tomorrow.